The restaurant was warm, quiet, and softly lit, the kind of place where people came to celebrate love or whisper secrets over candlelight. But for Adrian Mercer, it felt like a battlefield disguised with white tablecloths and polite smiles. Across the table sat a woman he had met barely 20 minutes ago, her confident posture and playful eyes studying him like a puzzle she was determined to solve.
This is SK Stories, where every story reminds us that kindness, empathy, and second chances can appear in the most unexpected moments. If you enjoy stories that inspire the heart, press, like, share this video with someone special, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to SK Stories for more powerful stories.
Most people saw the same thing when they looked at him. A man in his mid-30s, composed, well-dressed, steady voice, steady hands. Someone who looked like he had life perfectly under control. What they didn't see were the sleepless nights, the hospital hallways, the silent battles fought after his daughter had gone to bed. He lifted his gaze slowly and met the woman's eyes. His voice was quiet but firm when he responded that she didn't know him. And the truth was, almost no one did. Adrian hadn't planned to be a single father. 5 years earlier, his life had looked very different. He had been a structural engineer working long hours, married to a woman named Clara, who laughed loudly and filled their apartment with music on Sunday mornings. When their daughter, Elena, was born, Adrian felt like the world had opened a door he never knew existed. Suddenly, every late-night cry, every tiny laugh, every small step mattered more than anything else. But happiness can be fragile in ways people never expect. Clara's illness arrived quietly, almost invisibly at first. She complained of exhaustion, of strange headaches that refused to go away. The doctors initially dismissed it as stress. By the time they discovered the truth, the diagnosis fell into Adrian's life like a collapsing building. An aggressive brain tumor. For 8 months, Adrian lived between hope and terror. He spent mornings at work, afternoons at the hospital, nights rocking Elena to sleep, while pretending everything would be okay. Clara fought bravely, smiling for their daughter even when pain etched deep lines into her face. She used to whisper to Adrian that he would be an incredible father no matter what happened. At the time, he hated hearing those words. They sounded too much like goodbye, and eventually, they became exactly that. The day Clara passed away, Adrian felt like the entire structure of his life had cracked open. The silence in their apartment afterward was unbearable. There were toys scattered across the floor, a small pink blanket on the couch, and a tiny girl who looked up at him with confused eyes because she didn't understand why her mother wasn't coming home. Adrian wanted to collapse. Instead, he learned how to stand. The first year was brutal. He woke before sunrise to prepare Elena's breakfast, rushed to daycare, worked all day while worrying constantly, then returned home to cook, clean, and soothe a child who sometimes cried for her mother in the middle of the night. Sleep became a luxury. Loneliness became a quiet companion. But something unexpected began to grow in those difficult days. Resilience. Adrian discovered patience he never knew he possessed. He learned how to braid Elena's hair even though his fingers fumbled at first. He memorized bedtime stories and invented silly voices that made her giggle. On weekends, they walked through the park feeding ducks, and sometimes Elena would grab his hand and say she loved him with the simple certainty only children have. Those moments stitched his broken heart together slowly, thread by thread. Years passed, and the chaos gradually settled into a rhythm. Adrian became calm not because life was easy, but because he had already survived storms most people couldn't imagine. Still, people often misunderstood him. Some admired him, some pitied him, and others assumed he must be secretly desperate for companionship, which is how he eventually ended up sitting across from a stranger in that quiet restaurant. The woman's name was Marissa Caldwell. She had been recommended by a mutual friend who insisted Adrian needed to start living again. Marissa was confident, charismatic, and clearly used to reading people quickly. But she had only seen the surface version of Adrian Mercer. She watched him carefully after his quiet reply, curiosity replacing the teasing expression she had worn earlier. Adrian wasn't angry. He wasn't defensive either. He simply carried a weight that made his calmness feel different, deeper. The conversation slowly continued, moving through ordinary topics: work, hobbies, childhood memories. But Marissa kept noticing small details about him. The way he checked his phone once every 30 minutes, not out of distraction but concern. The way his eyes softened whenever he mentioned his daughter. The quiet pauses before he answered personal questions, as if choosing honesty over convenience. And gradually she began to understand something important. Adrian's calmness wasn't emptiness. It was strength built from loss. When dinner ended, Adrian thanked her politely. He explained that he needed to head home because his daughter would be finishing her evening movie with the babysitter soon. As he stood up, Marissa looked at him differently than before. The teasing tone had disappeared completely. Instead, there was respect in her voice when she said that maybe she didn't know him yet, but she would like to. Adrian offered a small smile, one that carried both caution and possibility. Life had taught him that trust should grow slowly. But it had also taught him that healing sometimes arrives quietly, in unexpected places. Outside the restaurant, the night air was cool and peaceful. Adrian drove home through softly glowing streetlights, thinking about Elena waiting in their small house. When he walked through the door, she ran toward him with sleepy excitement, her tiny arms wrapping around his legs. In that moment, everything else faded: the long day, the awkward date, the lingering memories of grief. All that remained was the simple truth that being her father was the most important role he would ever have. He carried her to bed, read her favorite story about a brave little fox, and watched her drift into sleep. Before leaving the room, he gently kissed her forehead and whispered a promise he had made countless times before, that he would always be there. Downstairs, Adrian sat quietly for a moment, reflecting on the strange journey his life had taken. Years ago, he thought losing Clara meant losing everything. But somewhere along the road of sleepless nights and difficult mornings, he had discovered something deeper: strength that came not from avoiding pain, but from continuing to love despite it. Maybe that was what people mistook for calmness. It wasn't that Adrian Mercer had no storms inside him. It was that he had learned how to survive them. And sometimes survival quietly turns into hope. If this story touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel so more meaningful stories like this can reach people who need them. Before we reach the ending, I have a small request for you. Comment below with the word strength if you believe single parents are some of the strongest people in the world. Because somewhere tonight, just like Adrian Mercer, there is someone quietly fighting battles no one else can see and still choosing love every single day.